All right, you Auburn recruiting junkies, we've got two commits in 2 days. Now, in different sports, but certainly this does build a momentum for everyone who's a fan of the recruiting topics. In this video, we're talking about a football commitment for the 2025 class. In addition, at the wide receiver position, who are we talking about today? Well, that's one Erick Smith of Southside High School in Selma. Some familiar names also in this class to go along with us and cool storylines. Certainly, we want to talk about all of those things today to give you the quick facts and things that you need to know for what it could mean for this prospect, for Auburn, for the class, for the future, all of those things that we're going to discuss here. So let's jump right into it now. As we already talked about, his name is Erick Smith from Southside High School in Selma, Alabama. It's an important distinction because there is a South Side that a lot of people get mixed up with. I did myself, up in the Birmingham-ish area. So keep that in mind when you're talking about what high school he's from. He's a wide receiver listed at 6'6", 190 pounds, approximately, depending on where you look and get your information on different sites. Also playing at the wide receiver position. Now, the cool storylines for Auburn in this commitment is you'll notice that his name seemingly rhymes with a certain other commitment in this class, Erick Smith, where there's a good reason for that. It's his twin brother. Now, his mom, bless him, naming them Derek and Eric. I don't know how she kept them straight and called them by the correct name all the time, but certainly that's a cool little feature in this, that not only do we have the highly coveted Erick Smith in there, we get to have his brother with him, his twin brother, here to be part of the class as well, and seems to have some very good measurables. I really love those tall wide receivers. So that's a pretty cool storyline. Another win for Marcus Davis, wide receiver coach for Auburn, as he continues to bring in good talent, those that are highly regarded and everyone's talking about, but maybe some diamonds in the rough as well, where we're talking about with this particular one right now. So certainly that's the coolest storyline coming out of this. I think it's also important to not ignore that there were some major movements in the recruiting space at the wide receiver position, some that Auburn may or may not have been interested in, and certainly that may have opened up some slots to officially not only move on an offer that he already have, but to commit on it. The space was actually there for his time. That's just speculation at this point. It's always important to make that distinction, I should say, and talk about it in that frame of reference for what this commitment obviously potentially could have followed there. So let's dive into what it could mean for him, for Auburn, and the class, and lots of other things as well. Well, let's talk about the class first. So at the time of his commitment, that brings the Tigers to 3 total wide receiver commits in this class. So depending on which sites you look at, and I've got a few of them pulled up right here, you're going to find different ratings and things like that, but usually he's rated at a 3-star rating. This brings the total class numbers to 27 total commits at the time of his commitment. As I said, 3 total wide receiver commits. His brother, Erick Smith, who is listed as an athlete in some sites, but most people expecting him to be a wide receiver. And then Sam Turner, the flip from Georgia Tech, and also Derek was a flip from Alabama as well. So not as prolific of a class for 2025 in the wide receiver position when we talk about numbers, but certainly we know Marcus Davis is a good pedigree as a wide receiver coach and recruiter. So I'm very excited for anybody that he brings in. So what does this mean for his potential in terms of playing time and things like that? Well, to do that, we always look at the depth chart. And if you do look at the depth chart, you'll see that obviously Auburn is losing 3 potential players this upcoming season that are going to be seniors, that are going to be transfers. Those are going to be names like Keandre Lambert-Smith, Robert Lewis, and Sam Jackson. So if you think about it from that standpoint, there is going to be playing time opening up because all 3 of those guys are playing currently for Auburn. But there's a core group that's been here that are, the Freeze 4, so to speak, are going to be filling that spots even more. But that means time will be open up underneath them as well for this particular one, and for Derek and for Sam. But talking about Eric, obviously, we'll see how he gets onto campus and if he can find some playing time when he gets here. I do like that 6'6", tall, measurable for a wide receiver. That always catches my eye a little bit when I see that. So that gives me a little bit of encouragement for him. Now, when you talk about what it means for the class, right? What does it mean in terms of his commitment? How does it mean things will shake out, especially at his position? Well, if you think about it, we just talked about the 3 that'll be leaving, and we talked about 3 commits right now that are coming into the class at the wide receiver position. So effectively, all those spots that we know 99% sure are going to be leaving and gone have been filled at this point. So does that mean we're done? Well, as we used to always say, we ain't done yet. I would always expect maybe something to be a surprise, things like that. There's certainly probably room for a wide receiver still in this class. So I would never say that we're done yet, but certainly we can look at the math and say that all those spots have been filled. Always like to note, too, where these guys come from. Selma, not to say that it's absolutely an Alabama stronghold there, but certainly it's a lot closer to them. So it's always great when we can kind of eke into their territory and steal one out of there, especially if he ends up being a diamond in the rough. And I do love the storyline with his brother, obviously being committed to Auburn, but being the twin brother as well. Always love to keep it in the family dynamic. So those are the quick facts, things that you need to know about what it means for him, for Auburn football, the future, the class, all of that stuff. We appreciate you checking in with us and giving us some time to talk about this brand new commitment. And we're welcoming Erick Smith to the 2025 Auburn class. War Eagle.